dugsiga boardingka iyo maalinlaha ah ee Amano boarding and day.
Greetings to 3C students. Peace be on you. Assalamu alaikum. You remember we almost, summarized it and finished our curriculum. So we will be doing together revision. We were doing even revision when we were in the school. This is the second lesson. We are revising the chapter 4, economic activity and energy. You have the VO1. So today's topic are these two. Informal employment. The first one was informal employment. You remember in our previous topic we talked about the different sectors of the economy, the primary, the secondary, the tertiary and quaternary. So this one is also another important sector. It's called informal employment, and we talk about the characteristics of informal sector. So these are generally the main important point to be able to comprehend what is informal employment. The name is, it has the characteristics of informal sector. Okay, an example is. So first, what is informal employment? What is informal employment? The informal sector is largely made up of jobs of which there is little or no official control Okay, it includes jobs such as child minding, taking care of children, like the nanny, domestic cleaning, and at the same time bartending. These are three examples about informal employment. The informal sector are those that are largely made up of jobs which there is little or no official control from the government. Okay. What about, the term is sometimes used to refer, it also has another important definition. What is the other definition it had? Sometimes it's called, it can be referred to be illegal activity, such as an individual who earns wages but doesn't claim them on his or her income taxes. So this one, informal employment can sometimes be legal, sometimes be illegal. For example, if a person is employed and at the same time that person earns and he doesn't pay the income tax, then that one can also be regarded as informal employment. So, or a cruel situation sometimes where people are forced to work without pay. It's a kind of slavery even. Those, employments and works that involve brutality, that do not respect the human rights and violate most of it, sometimes can also be regarded as an informal employment, Okay. In HICs, the high-income countries, this is the main area for the informal economy. So previously in the UK, for example, this also included something called the black economy. In the UK and in other parts of the world, they call it what? The black economy. They call it the black economy. Okay, so or the lamb. A lot of building workers were paid by the day in the cash and did not pay taxes, nor did they show up as being employed. So in UK and more parts of the world, there are many workers who work in the building projects, and during the day when they finish their work, they are paid and they don't pay any income tax. Even they don't appear to be employed. So many claimed unemployment pay and worked illegally. Because of its illegal nature, because of some informal employment, sometimes we said can be legal, sometimes can be legal, but mostly legal nature. Pay rates were much lower than regular workers. So for example, in India, let us look in India about the informal employment. In India, as you can see from there, it has been estimated that the informal economy was responsible for 60% of net domestic product, 60%, 68% of income, 60% of savings, 60% of savings, and at the same time, 31% of agriculture exports and even 41% of manufacturing export. Some estimates say that as many as 80% of the population earn most of their money through informal means. So as you can see from here, even the economy and the development of this country is based on the informal employment. Okay, what about another example? For example, Nigeria. It is thought that 40 to 45% of the GDP come from the informal economy. Even though Nigeria is a rich country, Nigeria is a rich country. This economy mostly depends on the oil, but at the same time, more than 40 to 45% of the GDP comes from informal way, informal, not through primary or secondary or tertiary or quaternary, but generally through informal. What causes this informal sector? Number one is migration. The second cause is underdevelopment. And the third one is underemployment. So when people move from a country to another country and they don't know the language, the only area they can get their living is through informal jobs. Imagine, for example, the Somali people, when they left this, their country during the previous civil wars, and they went to the rest of the world, they were not able to know the language. So most of them, they were working in the form of informal. Underdevelopment. When a country is underdeveloped, most of the people, they are employed in the informal sector. For example, if there is underemployment also. So the cause of informal sector generally is migration, underdevelopment, and at the same time underemployment. What are the characteristics of informal sector? When people are involved in informal sector, then you will be able to see and experience some of those terms and characteristics that are mentioned here. So the first one is selling of waste material for recycling, emergence of paratransit vehicles, not able to break down the poverty cycle, no health care, no unemployment benefits, high exposure to work-related risks, and uncertain legal status. And at the same time, involvement of children in the economic activities rather than education. So as you can see from here, these are generally the characteristics of informal sector. The first one is, the selling of waste materials for recycling. As you will see a diagram, many people, they are that are involved in informal sector, they are always engaged in, trying to sell a materials that were already used for recycling. The other one is informal sector. If a country, its population are mostly in the informal sector, you will see the emergence of those small cars, vehicles, like the scooters, the minibuses, hand-drawn and motorized rickshaws. Those are the small, cars. Even minibuses are there, scooters, the rickshaws, the one that are hand-drawn, the one that are motorized. So a good example is going to be, for example, India, Bangladesh, because informal sector is there in a high percent. And the other one is not being able to break down the poverty cycle. Poverty cycle is a cycle that a person is trapped, and that person will trap also his children, and his children will also be trapped in there. Unless that person, get education, or because of, hard work, he made himself out of that poverty. So it's difficult to be out of poverty cycle. One other characteristic of informal sector is that one. The other one is they don't get health care. There's no health care at all. And at the same time, when people in the informal sector, they don't get what's called unemployment benefits. Unemployment benefits. When people are unemployed, they generally get from their government is some allowance, some, wages, but informal sector, no. The other one is informal sector, there is always a risk. The chance you are going to get a risk, a hazard or a problem is there. You may get wounded, you may be killed. And the other one is those people who are employed generally in the informal sector, their status is uncertain, okay? They don't have a known status. In terms of legality, their status is not fixed, it's not known. The other one is informal sector children are always involved in the economy activity. Children are needed to be in the education. But in this one, children are not in the education. They are involved in the economic activity. So these are generally the characteristics of informal sector. Look at this, this is children at work in the informal sector. What are they doing? They are making brick. Even less than 7 years old are there. This in Bangladesh. Okay? So generally, that was all today. This is your homework. You should be able to explain the term informal employment, to state 3 causes of informal employment, 3 examples of informal employment jobs in Somaliland, 4 characteristics of informal employment. I'm summarizing this. Teacher Abdullah is saying to you, take care, stay at home, stay safe. Assalamu alaikum.
School